Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 6th Annual Rumi Peace and Dialogue Awards. My name is Teresa Warner, and I am president of the National Press Club. I will be your host for this evening's program. In honor of the life and legacy of Maulana Jalal al-Din Rumi, the Rumi Peace and Dialogue Awards serves as a great recognition of this most profound human being. The Rumi Peace and Dialogue Awards honors extraordinary individuals and organizations who have greatly contributed their time, energy, leadership, and dedication to the cause of dialogue, peace, tolerance, community service, and understanding. The Rumi Forum was founded in 1999 with the mission to foster interfaith and intercultural dialogue, stimulate thinking, and exchange of opinions on supporting and fostering a democracy and peace all over the world, and to provide a common platform for education and information exchange. Please now direct your attention to the screen for a brief visual presentation of the work of the Rumi Forum.
Be so accepting that your heart becomes wide like the ocean. Become inspired with faith and love for others. Offer a hand to those in need, and be concerned about everyone.
Now, if you will please join me in welcoming to the stage Emrah Çelik, President of the Rumi Forum, for welcoming remarks.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to warmly welcome each and every one of you to the 6th Annual Rumi Peace and Dialogue Awards. These annual awards highlight the achievements of individuals that have dedicated their lives and their efforts and contributed significantly to the cause of peace, dialogue and understanding, service to others, and our shared humanity. The Rumi Forum, founded in 1999, hopes to bring together people of different backgrounds around the ideals of serving society and increasing social cohesion through projects of engagement, education and dialogue, while overcoming ignorance and prejudice both at an intellectual and grassroots level. Mr. Fethullah Gulen, our honorary president, has motivated similar organisations around the world that espouse these very same shared values within the framework of democracy and respect for human rights. Most recently, Mr. Gulen, in response to attacks in Libya, in an opinion piece in the Financial Times wrote, and I quote, "Irresponsible actions by individuals damage the image of Islam and destroy the very tradition they are claiming to defend." And in his conclusion, "We must pursue a relentless campaign to promote respect for the sacred values of all religions," end of quote. As an organisation, we endeavour to serve all in the Washington, D.C. metro area and the Mid-Atlantic region through our 10 chapters. Tonight, we are here to celebrate and reflect upon the successes and example of our award recipients. These awards reflect the sincere efforts of each and every one of the recipients' service to their fellow human being. We are proud of their achievement and congratulate each and every one of them for their good work. It is my hope that we can all incorporate into our lives the motivation that drives such success and service. I wish you all a most pleasant evening, and beyond tonight, look forward to continuing the dialogue. Thank you.
Peter Kovac is a retired senior Foreign Service officer. He retired at the rank of Minister Counselor. Mr. Kovac served in Yemen, Bahrain, Morocco, Jordan, Japan, and Pakistan. 3 times he headed up whole-of-government strategic communication organizations. He was a diplomat in residence at UCLA and director of the Office of International Religious Freedom at the Department of State. Mr. Kovac is currently senior advisor at George Mason University's Center for World Religion, Diplomacy, and Conflict Resolution. He serves on the Rumi Forum's advisory board. Please welcome to the stage Peter Kovac for opening remarks.
Thank you for that too flattering introduction. Peace be with you. Assalamu alaikum. Shalom aleichem. Shanti, shanti. No matter in what language, culture, faith, or intellectual tradition your personal roots are planted, essential in this modern world is an ability to bring a wider community table to your narratives, your structuring of reality. In our diverse and increasingly proximate human world, such sharing is imperative. All the while sharing, realizing that other equally whole, equally human beings erect different parameters of reality in their own distinct cultural, psychological, and linguistic ways. This kind of sharing is essential to survival on today's planet. It's what really makes us fully human, dialogue. And the Rumi Forum, uniquely in my view, excels at fostering such dialogue. I discovered the Gülen movement that the Rumi Forum represents during my time as diplomat in residence at UCLA. A rabbi friend and a noted Muslim American acquaintance, essayist Reza Aslan, both alerted me to programs at the Pacifica Institute. Pacifica is the West Coast counterpart of the Rumi Forum. My friends knew me well enough to know these programs would capture my interest, and they did. Let's see. These pages are in close dialogue. To my surprise, the modest Pacifica Institute office suite and program venue was a 3-minute walk from my Westwood apartment. I started attending their luncheon programs regularly and eventually gave a couple of talks myself. An interfaith activist and, as a diplomat, a peace builder, I found no other faith-based organization in the LA basin better foster dialogue across significant social and conceptual boundaries. Whether reconciling Turkish with Armenian accounts of the tragic events in Anatolia of 100 years ago, or building bridges between Muslims and Jews, and connecting those bridges to the rich dialogues in Los Angeles between Catholics and Buddhists. An odd happenstance, maybe, but true. I feel the same about the Rumi Forum and their work in our capital region. The key commonality of the luncheon seminars, home visits, interfaith dinners, and trips to Turkey, among many Rumi Forum activities, is intercultural dialogue. What is doubly fascinating for me as one with distant ancestral ties to Turkey is that the Rumi Forum strikes a stimulating balance between implementing the universally applicable humanistic teachings of a modern Muslim thinker, Fethullah Gülen, and a pride in Turkish culture and Turkey's reemergence as a center of Islamic moderation amidst a booming economic and diplomatic revival. For those of us, friends of the Rumi Forum on the outside of the Turkish community, there is a double fascination with a coherent and modern Islamic vision and an amazing country with a deep history. The vision, I believe, is in the spirit of the Quranic injunction, and this is my paraphrasing. If God had wanted to make us alike, he would have. So, mankind, your duty is to go forth and know one another. In other words, skillfully dialogue as a kind of spiritual imperative. As to the history piece, like many here quite possibly, I've stared across Istanbul's Golden Horn at the Hill, the Sultan Ahmet Quarter, hosting the Hagia Sophia Cathedral, which later became a mosque and now is a museum, and the Topkapi Palace grounds. As a recovering history of religion major, contemplating this hill rising over the Bosphorus gives me the shivers. Staring across this busiest of modern waterways, I view and reflect on a single urban quarter, a neighborhood that was the center of the Euro-Asian world, the Axis Mundi, as we called it in school, for 1,000 years, give or take a few. and it may be emerging as such again. Maybe it's the legacy of Anatolia's vast multicultural empires, but one encounters at every turn with the Forum an appreciation for the prerequisites of dialogue, self-reflection, human empathy, and the opening of the heart and mind, please note my word order, that result. While many here probably viewed the largely favorable 60 Minutes piece on the Gulen-inspired harmony schools in America, fewer, I'm certain, know that similar institutions inspired by Imam Gulen's ideas, emphasizing scientific exploration and rationality as a path to knowledge of and a vehicle for giving back to the divine, my words here, my paraphrasing of my understanding of his teaching, are spread throughout far needier parts of the world in the hundreds. Let me share a personal story. I was introduced as a retired member of our senior foreign service, but actually I'm rehired. Last year, the department sent me to fill in as Counselor of Public Affairs at our embassy in Dushanbe, Tajikistan. Tajikistan is, unfortunately, the poorest of the so-called Central Asian stands. Life isn't easy there. Our American corner, a kind of computerized neighborhood reading room, akin in scale, if I can explain it, to a Christian Science reading room here on our shores, hosted many lectures and films to fill the relatively quiet cultural scene in the capital city. These events generally drew overflow crowds of about 50 to 100 high school students and university students also. I gave a couple of lectures there myself and attended several others. During the soda and cookie sessions that followed these talks, I made a point of talking with the students who had asked the brightest and most incisive questions during the talks. I can say, without exaggeration, that just about inevitably, the students who demonstrated that depth of questioning and a special capacity to reason critically turned out to be from the Dushanbe Gulen School. Closer to home, and to our purpose here tonight, are the Rumi Forum's contributions to our dialogue as an American community in this greater capital region, mid-Atlantic space. The Forum's dinners, family visits, and interfaith encounters in our Maryland and Virginia suburbs demonstrate a vigorous and successful integration of a modern Muslim population into our towns and neighborhoods. To me, this distinctly American story of successful integration provides a picture book foundation for all the Forum does to enhance dialogue among us and our communities. These annual awards are but another contribution to the community building that the Forum does and exemplify robust participation of the Rumi Forum in our public space. The act of singling out and thanking the stellar public figures whom we honor tonight has a particularly American and communitarian significance. To this year's honorees, your gracious acceptance and attendance here in turn honor the Forum's many dialogue initiatives and an emerging community of new Americans and their many friends in the quote, mainstream, whatever that means anymore in America. You honor and validate the Rumi Forum, and you allow the Forum to in turn validate and praise your achievements in the public square of our region and nation. Thank you, and peace be with you.
Thank you, Peter. We'll now begin the awards ceremony. We begin with one of two awards for extraordinary commitment to public service. Please welcome Emra Çelik, President of the Rumi Forum, back to the stage to present this award.
This is my last time, I promise, that I'm up here. Receiving the first award of the evening for extraordinary commitment to public service is the Honourable Martin O'Malley, Governor of the State of Maryland. Born in 1963, Martin O'Malley spent his childhood in Bethesda and Rockville, learning about the fundamental importance of public service from his parents, Tom and Barbara O'Malley. He attended the University of Maryland School of Law and later became Assistant State's Attorney for Baltimore City, a member of the Baltimore City Council, and eventually Mayor of Baltimore City. He helped bring communities together to build a safer, cleaner, and healthier city. Now, as Governor of the State of Maryland, he is applying his knowledge, experience, and energy to making state government work again for the people. Martin O'Malley Martin O'Malley's administration has been credited with, and I quote, accomplishing more in 1 year than most administrations accomplish in 4, and is driven by a belief that all citizens share certain core values and goals and works tirelessly to unite the state as one Maryland. Governor O'Malley and his wife, Katie O'Malley, a district court judge, have 2 daughters, Grace and Tara, and 2 sons, William and Jack. They are members of St. Francis of Assisi Catholic Church. The Governor could not be with us this evening. However, he has sent an acceptance message via video. Please direct your attention to the screen to view
Hello,
the
I'm
video.
Governor Martin O'Malley. While I can't be there with you today, I wanted to say thank you to everyone at the 2012 Rumi Peace and Dialogue Awards. I'm especially honored to be the recipient of the 2012 Extraordinary Commitment to Public Service Award, and I accept it on behalf of the good and hardworking people of Maryland. As a state, we join the Rumi Forum in your efforts, our efforts, to advance education, support the needs of our people, and really harness and celebrate our diversity. With record investments, even in these challenging times, we've built what Education Week magazine has named America's #1 ranked public schools for 4 unprecedented years in a row. As a result, our students continue to lead the nation and are achieving record successes in the classroom. Together over the past 6 years, we've expanded health care coverage to more than 400,000 people who previously had no coverage whatsoever, and over half of them were children. With the men and women of law enforcement on the front lines, we've driven down violent crime to the lowest levels we've seen here in Maryland since 1975. We are the first state in the country to declare our commitment to eradicate childhood hunger within our borders by 2015. And together, we're making significant strides to feeding more hungry children. In Maryland, you see, we consider ourselves pro-growth Americans. What do I mean by that? We believe in growing jobs and growing opportunity. We believe in children growing healthy, growing educated, and growing strong. We believe in grandparents growing old with dignity and with love. We believe in growing trees, growing sustainable bay fisheries, growing food locally to feed our citizens. We believe in growing prosperity for every generation, growing in our understanding of one another, growing in our compassion for one another, growing in our respect for the human dignity of every individual, and growing in our appreciation for the fragility and interdependence of our lives with the other living species and living systems of this one earth, this earth that we share with generations that come after us. We believe in the responsibility that we share in being members of that larger community we call Maryland, to advance the greater good. In Maryland, our diversity is our greatest strength. We believe that everyone can make a difference, and each of us must try. Thank you to everyone at the Rumi Forum for your work, and thank you again for the award.
Ladies and gentlemen, now please join me in welcoming the Honourable John McDonough, Secretary of State for the State of Maryland, to come to the stage to accept the award on the Governor's behalf.
Thank you very much. It's unfair for the awardees to have 2 speeches, so I won't go on very long, but on behalf of the Governor, I know he really wanted to express his congratulations to all the other awardees this evening, particularly his good friend and a good friend to many of us in Maryland, Cardinal McCarrick, who for many years as Archbishop of Washington served many of the residents of Maryland. Cardinal McCarrick, on behalf of the Governor, congratulations, and to all the other awardees as well. Thank you very much.
Award of the evening for extraordinary commitment to public service will be presented tonight by Ms. Catherine Marshall, Senior Fellow at the Berkeley Center for Religion, Peace, and World Affairs, and Executive Director of the World Faiths Development Dialogue. Ms. Marshall is a member of the Rumi Forum's Advisory Board. Please welcome Ms. Marshall to the stage to present this award.
Good evening. Receiving the joint award for extraordinary commitment to public service this evening are U.S. Special Envoy Hannah Rosenthal and U.S. Special Representative Farah Pandit. Hannah Rosenthal was sworn in as Special Envoy to monitor and combat anti-Semitism on November 23, 2009, sparked by the work and experience of her father, a rabbi and Holocaust survivor, and her experience studying to become a rabbi. Hannah Rosenthal has led a life marked by activism and a passion for social justice. Before joining the State Department, Ms. Rosenthal was executive director of the Chicago Foundation for Women, where she led one of the largest women's funds in the world. Prior to that, she was executive director of the Jewish Council for Public Affairs for 5 years, where she worked on domestic and international policy for the organized Jewish community in North America. Ms. Rosenthal served as Midwest Regional Director of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services during the Clinton administration. She was involved in community organizing and the anti-war and civil rights movements in the 1960s. Ms. Rosenthal attended graduate school for rabbinical studies at Hebrew Union College in Jerusalem and Los Angeles, and holds a bachelor's degree in religion from the University of Wisconsin. Ms. Rosenthal has 2 grown daughters who are busy mending the world with their mother. And Farah Pandit was appointed Special Representative to Muslim communities in June 2009. Her office is responsible for executing Secretary Clinton's vision for engagement with Muslims around the world on a people-to-people and organizational level. She reports directly to the Secretary of State. Prior to this appointment, she was senior advisor to the Assistant Secretary of State for European and Eurasian Affairs. In this role, she focused on Muslim communities in Europe, where she was responsible for policy oversight for integration, democracy, and Islam in the Bureau of European and Eurasian Affairs. She also worked on issues relating to countering violent Islamic extremism. Before joining the Department of State, she served as the Director for Middle East Regional Initiatives for the National Security Council. She was responsible for coordinating U.S. policy on Muslim world outreach and broader Middle East North Africa initiatives. She reported directly to the Deputy Assistant to the President and Deputy National Security Advisor for Global Democracy Strategy. Special Representative Pandit served on the staff of the National Security Council from December 2004 to February 2007. Prior to joining the National Security Council, Special Representative Pandit was Chief of Staff for the Bureau of Asia, Near East, for the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID. She worked directly for the Assistant Administrator for the Bureau, responsible for more than $4 billion in programs throughout the Middle East, South Asia, and Asia, including Iraq, Afghanistan, and Gaza West Bank. In 2004, she spent 2 months in Kabul, Afghanistan. From 1997 to 2003, Special Representative Pandit was Vice President of International Business for ML Strategies in Boston, Massachusetts. She received a master's degree from the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy at Tufts University, where she specialized in international security studies, Islamic civilizations, and Southwest Asia, and international negotiation and conflict resolution. She concentrated on the insurgency in Kashmir and has spoken on the subject in international and domestic forums. Prior to graduate school, Special Representative Pandit worked at USAID as the Special Assistant to the Director of Policy. She's been a consultant in both the public and nonprofit sectors. Special Representative Pandit has served on several boards with a focus on international affairs, including the World Affairs Council of Boston, the Council of Emerging National Security Affairs, and the British American Project. She was a term member of the Council on Foreign Relations. And Special Representative Pandit received an AB in Government and Psychology from Smith College, where she was president of the student body. She served as a trustee of alma maters Smith College and Milton Academy, and she's currently a member of the Board of Overseers, the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy. And she was born in Srinagar, Kashmir, India. Whew. Now, please welcome to the stage Special Representative to Muslim Communities, Ms. Farah Pandit, and Ms. Stacey Bernard Davis, Senior Advisor to the Special Envoy to Monitor and Combat Anti-Semitism, to accept the award on behalf of Special Envoy Hannah Rosenthal, as she could not be with us this evening. So now we will first hear remarks from Special Representative Farah Pandit and Ms. Stacey Bernard Davis, and then we will ask you to look at the screen for a brief video acceptance speech from Special Envoy Hannah Rosenthal. Thank you.
Well, good evening, and thank you so very much. I think you heard my entire life story. I'd forgotten half of it. I apologize for that very long background. But what I want to say tonight is really from the heart. First of all, Emre, I really want to thank you so much. You can't imagine how much this means to me. Your partnership and your friendship over the course of my term as Special Representative has meant a lot. We were just talking about the fact that we first met in Kentucky, and we have actually met on various parts of the globe together as we've talked about the important work of building bridges and talking about mutual respect. This entire forum and the work that all of the people in past years have done represents something that President Obama talked about and still talks about very clearly, and something that we're all working toward, which is mutual respect. And whether we're talking about race, or we're talking about sexuality, or we're talking about gender, we're talking about values that are very much a part of the American experience. I think very much about the last couple of years with Hannah working on this campaign, Ours Against Hate, which has been one of the most incredible journeys I have ever had in my professional existence. You didn't get to hear about the campaign in the long build up to us getting up on the stage. But this campaign was birthed at a conference held in Kazakhstan by the OSCE, and they had asked us to come be part of the American delegation to speak on behalf of the US on a variety of topics. I was supposed to speak on Islamophobia. Hannah was supposed to speak on the issue of anti-Semitism. And what we did in June of 2010 was to do something quite unprecedented for a US government official. We switched speeches and didn't tell anybody. So when they called on the Americans to speak on behalf of anti-Semitism, I stood up. And when they asked the Americans to speak on behalf of Islamophobia, Hannah stood up. We gave our speeches, but we ended in with the same paragraph. Hate is hate, no matter who the victim is. That one moment changed the course of both of our professional lives from 2010 onward. So much so that we launched a campaign in 2011 because civil society asked us to do more than give a speech. They asked us to do something to help them move this idea of mutual respect forward. And in 2011, we started a campaign on Facebook for young people under the age of 30, because guess what? Most of the world is under the age of 30. And we wanted young people to volunteer 1 hour or more of their time for someone who didn't look like them, live like them, or pray like them. And we thought perhaps we would get a few thousand hours pledged worldwide. By the end of 2011, thousands upon thousands of hours had been pledged. And 7 NGOs from the UK came to us and said, we have been really inspired by this global campaign. Mayors in Azerbaijan, mayors in Spain, mayors in Turkey had taken this on. Youth groups, students, all kinds of organizations had asked people to pledge, and they were doing things all over the world. But these 7 NGOs said, We want to move this forward on an international stage, and would it be okay if we went to the London 2012 Olympics and asked them if we could become partners? We have been really privileged to be partners with the 2012 Olympic Games and the Paralympic Games. This campaign is not about me, it is not about Hannah, it is not about the US Department of State. This campaign is about the young men and women, girls and boys, all over this world who are working hard to create a world based on mutual respect. So on behalf of them, I thank you very much for this kind honor, and I miss my friend Hannah, who is not here with us tonight, but she has been a friend and a colleague in helping to think about how to do this big and to build coalitions, and I urge us all, in her spirit and the spirit of the young people I've heard around the world, to do more than we've ever done before, because hate is hate, no matter who the victim is. So thank you very much, Emre, and for the Rumi Forum. Thank you so much.
There's a short video with remarks from Hannah, but I will accept this on her behalf and say how sorry she is that she can't be here this evening, and to also say how much she's treasured her collaboration with Farah on 2011, 2012 Hours Against Hate and beyond. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm so sorry I couldn't be there with you today. My heart is, and my soul is, and my passion is. It's not every day that someone is as lucky as I am, that I get to have a job that matches what my passion is. And I've had that opportunity working as a special envoy to monitor and combat anti-Semitism, to fight the growth of hatred around the world. And now I've moved to go home, to be closer to my family, who understand me and my passion, and that my work won't stop. And I hope my partnership and shared goals with Rumi Forum will continue and will continue to grow. I think that the message of advancing mutual respect and fighting hatred could not come at a more important time. We are seeing intolerance, bigotry, ultranationalism happening around the world, and it should keep us up at night. And I know that you in Rumi Forum and we here at the State Department work hard to try and stem those bad trends from happening. So, from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you for this award, but more importantly, I want to thank you for the work you do. Because together, we're trying desperately to make a difference, to move the needle, to stop the hatred, to stop the bigotry, to advance mutual respect, acceptance, pluralism, and hopefully peace. Thanks for all you do, and thanks so much for this honor.
Please welcome President Garvey.
I want to congratulate all of tonight's award winners and extend a special note of congratulations to the governor, who, like the next awardee, is a graduate of the Catholic University of America. Cardinal McCarrick was born in New York City in 1930, and after high school he studied in Europe, and then upon his return went to Fordham briefly, and then entered St. Joseph's Seminary in Yonkers, where he got a bachelor's degree and also a master's in history. Cardinal Spellman ordained him to the priesthood on May 31st of 1958, and he then went on to enter a second, to earn, he emphasizes, a second MA and PhD at the Catholic University of America in sociology. He also, in his spare time while there, served as chaplain and then dean of students and then director of development, a post which he still does some work for. In 1965, he was named the president of the Catholic University of Puerto Rico, and in 1977, Cardinal Cook consecrated him a bishop. He was appointed the founding bishop of Metuchen in 1981. That's in New Jersey. They have in their Chamber of Commerce handbook a little poem written by a guy named L.H. Hunt that says, history carves on our escutcheon brainy borough of Metuchen. He did that in 1981, and then he became the Archbishop of Newark. In 1985, Blessed John Paul II named him Archbishop of Washington in 2000, and a year later appointed him to the College of Cardinals. Cardinal McCarrick has served with many of you on numerous national and international bodies. He's been a counselor of CSIS and a member of the Inter-American Dialogue. He's a longtime member of the Board of Directors of Catholic Relief Services and has for 35 years been an active member of the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops. The Cardinal has chaired many of the committees of that body and served as a member of several Vatican entities. During his time as Archbishop of Washington, Cardinal McCarrick had the honor of serving as Chancellor of the Catholic University of America and President of the Board of Trustees of the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception. As Bishop and as Archbishop, he put an emphasis on education, on vocations, and on meeting the needs of new immigrants, particularly in the Latino community. He's visited many nations to survey humanitarian needs and to advocate for human rights. He was a charter member of the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom. In January of 2011, the Library of Congress invited him to serve as a distinguished visiting scholar. Cardinal McCarrick holds 34, going on 35 honorary degrees and has received awards too numerous to mention. Tonight he'll receive one more. Please welcome His Eminence Cardinal McCarrick to receive the award.
We've had some wonderful talks tonight, and this will not be one of them, but it will be brief. I'm grateful to the Rumi Forum for this very special recognition, which I don't deserve, because you always get recognized for things that other people do. And that very much is in my case, because I've had the privilege of working with extraordinary people. People with great ideas, people with great dreams, people with great projects, who have brought them to conclusion and helped many, many other people in the way they did that. I know many of you here who have worked with me. Catherine Marshall was one of my great, I guess, inspirations because of all that she does over the years. And of course, President Garvey has been the model of an educator that I, years ago, would have liked to have emulated. It's too late now, but John, I'm grateful that I see it. I see these things are possible. I just want to talk for a moment about Rumi, because on this whole area of interreligious dialogue, of which we're all so very much involved, there's a great citation from Rumi. Remember now, this is 800 years old, but he said once, your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. Imagine that. Very powerful, very insightful. And it goes back to maybe St. Francis, who was around the same century. And St. Francis said, love begins with us, charity begins with us. And everything that we've said here, these splendid recipients of these awards, all that they've said is the same thing. We have to begin with us. Interreligious dialogue is a very important part of our world today. It starts with talking with people, but that never works. You have to start talking to people. And then you have a chance. And if you talk to people long enough, you'll get to understand people. And you can't move without understanding. But if you get that understanding, then you come to another stage, which is a crucial stage, is a stage of appreciating what other people stand for. So to talk with, to talk to understand, to appreciate. And once you appreciate, then you can work together. And I think that's what Rumi would want us to do by clearing out the baggage of our own selfishness or our own ideas, which are not as open and loving as they should be. And by once doing that, by being able to work with each other. We must work with each other because one by one we can't change the world. But one by one we can do what Rumi asks us to do, clear out the baggage of hatred or the baggage of discrimination or the baggage of selfishness in our own lives. And if we do that, then we're free to change the world. You're going to do that. I'd like to help you. God bless you.
Our final award this evening is the Extraordinary Commitment to Peacebuilding Youth Award. It will be presented by Mito Koloski, President of the United Macedonian Diaspora. Please welcome Mr. Koloski to the stage to present this award.
Your Eminence, Your Excellency Ambassador, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Receiving the award this evening for Extraordinary Commitment to Peacebuilding Youth Award is Ms. Ayla Delkic, Executive Director of the Advisory Council for Bosnia and Herzegovina. Ayla Delkic serves as the Executive Director, as I said, of the Advisory Council for Bosnia and Herzegovina and is responsible for day-to-day operations of the organization. Her previous experience includes working at a law firm, nonprofit organizations, and with the Women's Center Krajina Ter in Sanski Most, Bosnia and Herzegovina, where she focused on women's and children's rights. Prior to her current position, Ms. Delkic worked with conflict analysis, professional filmmakers, photographers, and local community leaders in Bosnia and Herzegovina and Albania on projects to foster unity and understanding amongst youth who have recently emerged from violent conflict. In collaboration with the Center for Peacebuilding and Balkans Peace Park Project, Ms. Delkic, along with her colleagues, is one of the founders of the Balkans Peace Photography Project. She is an author of a paper in Transitional Justice Process titled An Analysis of the Social, Political, and Ethical Implications of Ethnic Cleansing in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Ms. Delkic holds a Bachelor of Arts in Political Science from the University of North Florida and a Master in Arts in Conflict Analysis and Resolution from George Mason University. Now, please welcome Ms. Ayla Delkic to the stage to accept the award for Extraordinary Commitment to Peacebuilding Youth Award.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Good evening. I am very honored to accept this award from the Rumi Forum, especially because they put such an emphasis on interfaith dialogue. Thank you very, very much. I'm also humbled to be in the company of such distinguished recipients. I would like to congratulate you all. And you inspire me to do the work that I do, and thank you for making the world a better place. I was born in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and I came to the United States as a refugee in the early 90s during the war. 2012 marks 20 years since the beginning of the war in Bosnia, and that war took over 100,000 lives and displaced over 2 million people. The Dayton Peace Accords ended the war in 1995, but it also divided Bosnia into two entities. And today, one of the entities, Republika Srpska, still denies the genocide and ethnic cleansing that occurred in Bosnia. The sad thing is that religion and ethnicity is used to divide people. And my biggest fear is that children today in Bosnia are growing up divided. They attend different schools. We have what is called 2 schools under one roof. So you might have, let's say, Muslim children go to school in the morning, and then Christian Orthodox students going to school in the afternoon. They don't interact. They don't play on, in the playground, and they learn different histories. They have different history books. And my concern is that they're going to grow up and be more nationalistic than the very people that took us to war. But despite this, there's always light at the end of the tunnel. And it is up to us to intervene and help Bosnia. I know Bosnia is not, in the top 10 or 20. There's Afghanistan, Iran, North Korea, so many other conflicts, Libya. But it's very important that we keep focused on Bosnia, because Bosnia is instrumental for the peace and stability of the entire Balkan region. There are organizations within Bosnia that I've worked with, such as the Center for Peace Building, and they do wonderful, wonderful work with children from different ethnic backgrounds, and they try to foster, build bridges and foster dialogue. And I think that's huge, and these are the types of organizations we have to support. With my work here in Washington, as Meto pointed out, I work for the Advisory Council for Bosnia, and we advocate on behalf of Bosnian Americans and for a united multi-ethnic Bosnia. And I've been fortunate enough to work with policymakers here in Washington and with Meto Kolaski, who's the president of the United Macedonian Diaspora, and we have formed the Southeast Europe Coalition. And what we do with that is all the countries of Southeast Europe, we get together and we talk. And, I think it's for the first time that you have people from Serbia and Albania sitting together at a table. And we're all trying to help each other and help get our countries into the European Union and NATO. All the work that I've done has been to sort of shed some light and spread the truth about what has happened in Bosnia, because there is still so much genocide denial. And I accept this award on behalf of all peace builders in Bosnia whose work is oftentimes seems never ending. So I thank you all, and thank you to the Rumi Forum for giving me this award. Thank you.
Ambassador David Newton is currently an adjunct scholar at the Middle East Institute. He returned to the United States at the end of 2004 after having served for 6 years in Prague as the first director of Radio Free Iraq. Shortly before that appointment, he had retired from a 36-year foreign service career. Having served as ambassador in Yemen from 1994 to 1997, and as the first ambassador to Iraq from 1984 to 1988, following the resumption of diplomatic relations. During his foreign service career, Ambassador Newton received a Presidential Meritorious Service Award for his Iraq assignment, numerous Department of State awards, and the Department of the Army Medal for Outstanding Civilian Service. He currently serves on the Rumi Forum's advisory board. Please make welcome Ambassador Newton for our closing remarks.
Well, thank you very much. I'm lucky they didn't read the whole thing, because I've also been around a long time. And I'm sure you've heard a lot of inspiring talks tonight and many interesting discussions. I certainly have. I'm not too old to learn. And I really appreciated hearing it, but I'm going to try to be brief, because I'm the last speaker, and I'm sure you would also always like to get home early. I've had a long time love affair with the Middle East, with Islam, starting at age 11 through my own studies in Islamic history. But I only fairly recently came to understand the Gülen movement and what the amazing changes that have taken place in Turkey. In my own life, I served 21 years in the Arab world, such peaceful countries, including Lebanon, Syria, and Iraq, and Yemen, more peaceful than Saudi Arabia. You could see what success I had as a diplomat. And I spent 15 years in Washington, almost all of it, working on the Near East, and observed a lot of hatred, many acts of terrorism, and not a few wars. I came to realize that tolerance, I would call, is the mother of all virtues, because tolerance requiring dialogue, because without tolerance we cannot possibly try to achieve such things as democracy and human rights, because it requires respect for the person and respect for the ideas of the person. These are really key values for us as Americans, but most of all, tolerance is required for peace. And tonight we have seen the honoring of a number of remarkable individuals who well deserve the awards that they have received. I also became familiar with Jalaluddin Rumi. It's a natural for me because I'm a Unitarian. We even have a hymn which simply repeats the words of Jalaluddin Rumi, "Come, all of you, come." And it's really a struggle, I think, even in Washington, to try to make people understand moderation in Islam. We are so overrun with terrible stories about killing and all kinds of violence that we forget that the great majority of Muslims are peaceful people. This is true even in the Arab world. This touches all of us who served in the Foreign Service. I spent almost all my career in the Near East Bureau. We have just lost a very fine ambassador in Libya. He, in fact, is the 5th ambassador who was killed, who was from the Near East Bureau, along with 2 deputy chiefs of mission. So we have a real problem with violence in the world. And I think it is incumbent on all of us to do everything we can, because hatred and intolerance are not something that should just be fought for noble purposes, but because hatred kills. And it has killed not only, in this case, some American diplomats, but more important for the world, it is killing thousands and thousands of Muslims, of innocent Muslims. I think the Muslim world, especially in the Arab world, also in Southeast Asia, is really in a struggle not only to define itself and the way it wishes to be governed, but to define its relationship to the rest of the world. And I think there is hardly a more important moment for all of us than to try to spread the understanding between the West and Islam, and look for such remarkable movements as the service movement or the Gulen movement, which of course has transformed much in Turkey, but has now moved beyond the borders of Turkey into the rest of the Muslim world. And even as we heard, and as I think you know, the movement even has schools in the United States of the very highest standard of education, but also promoting tolerance and understanding. So I very much appreciate that I was able to take part in this evening. I'm sure you all do, and I wish you a good evening.
On behalf of the Rumi Forum, I would like to thank you all very much for joining us this evening. We hope you all enjoyed the evening's program, and we look forward to hosting you again. I wish you all a safe journey home and a good night. Thank you.